The Pokemon series is the kind of series that is simple on the surface, but gets pretty complex the deeper you get into it, and this includes its lore and world building as well. One interesting thing that occasionally happens as a result of this is certain characters and Pokemon from newer games appearing in older ones from before their actual debut into the series. Each case of this happening is really fascinating, and we're going to be highlighting 10 examples of this phenomenon today. While some of these are theoretical, some are legitimate, and all of them are really cool. So without further ado, let's get into it. Beginning first is an official one, and that would be Toxtricity's appearance in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Now, you might think a Gen 8 Pokemon appearing in a Gen 7 game is too good to be true, but it actually happened. In Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon at the Game Freak offices in Heya City, a poster can be seen on the wall that very clearly depicts Gigantamax Toxtricity. Since the poster is kind of hard to make out, however, it would have been almost impossible for anyone to pick up on this ahead of time. But nevertheless, it is a really cool instance of Game Freak hinting at their future games, which they tend to do fairly often. Another instance of this happening occurred in Generation 6, in Pokemon X and Y. I'm sure you all know of the strange souvenir, which was the talk of the town between Generations 6 and 7, as it outright proclaimed itself to be a hint at the then next generation of Pokemon. The strange souvenir in particular was actually a direct representation of the Tapus, since the description of the souvenir describes it as depicting a protector of a region far from Kalos. Now, while the Tapus didn't physically appear themselves anywhere in the games, as the souvenir depicting them doesn't actually look like them in the game, it is still pretty cool and crazy that Game Freak were outright describing a legendary Pokemon to us, which was an entire generation ahead of where we were at the time. How about we take a look at some human characters now? Looker is a character that debuted in Pokemon Platinum in Gen 4, but there is evidence to suggest that he actually appeared originally in Pokemon Red and Blue. On the SSN, if you explore all of its various rooms, you will come across a guy that says he is a global police agent, just like Looker, who is a member of the International Police. This, coupled with Looker being found washed ashore in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and the fact that the SSN sunk in the anime, it paints a pretty convincing picture that this is in fact Looker, and he ended up in Hoenn after the voyage of the SSN that he was on sunk while out at sea. Later information, however, would suggest that Looker was more than likely a faller in Oraz instead, coming through an Ultra Wormhole, which would explain why he has amnesia. However, the shipwreck theory still holds up pretty good regardless, as Red and Blue are non-Mega Timeline games, whereas Oraz operates in the Mega Timeline. So it's entirely possible that Looker somehow fell through an Ultra Wormhole while out at sea after the SSN sunk, and it pulled him into the Mega Timeline in Hoenn. It might be crazy, but it's pretty convincing to me, and it might just show that Looker has been around longer than we might have thought. Another theoretical early appearance of a character has to do with Professor Sycamore possibly appearing in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, before his debut appearance in X and Y. Professor Sycamore has been stated in X and Y to have studied under Professor Rowan, who of course lives in Sinnoh. Well, if we take a look at Professor Rowan's aides, one of them, who is the father of the player character that you don't play as, has dark bluish-black hair, just like Professor Sycamore, and due to his kid being either Lucas or Dawn, depending on who you play as, it's very curious that Lucas, as his child, is wearing a French-styled beret in the games, possibly revealing that his father is indeed Professor Sycamore, who we all apparently interacted with well before he actually debuted for the first time in Pokemon X and Y. One character that without a shadow of a doubt appeared in a game ahead of her main series debut is Professor Kuki's wife, Professor Burnette. She actually first appeared in the Pokemon Dream Radar game during the days of Gen 5 before finding her way to Alola. It's possible that Game Freak simply liked her character enough that they wanted to implement her into the main series, but it's also possible that it's supposed to sort of tie into Sun and Moon's interdimensional theme by pulling in a character from a spin-off game. Either way, it's a very interesting thing to see occur. This next character doesn't actually have a distinct identity, but for all intents and purposes, they were present in a game prior to their formal introduction. This character happens to be a grunt of Team Plasma who appears in Pokemon Black and White 2, who states that they used to be a member of Team Galactic, who we had seen a generation prior in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. While obviously not having a name or appearance of any kind that we can identify them with, it more or less can be assumed that this Plasma Grunt was one of the very same Team Galactic Grunts that we battled during our Sinnoh adventure several years earlier. Another Gen 5 character that debuted in Gen 4 who does actually have a distinct identity is Kaitlyn of the Unova Elite Four. Her appearance prior to her big blowout in Gen 5 wasn't as hidden or disguised as some of these others we've talked about, as she was right there for all to see in Platinum, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver in the Battle Frontier, as the boss of the Frontier Brain, Derek. Since Kaitlyn was somewhat of a minor character in this role, however, her being a member of the Unova Elite Four was effectively her first proper appearance, even though she had been included in the games a whole generation earlier. Just like Professor Sycamore, another Kalos character who we very possibly met prior to her introduction in X and Y is Valerie. This is because it's basically outright confirmed in the games that Valerie is from Ecruteak City, and there's actually evidence to suggest that we met her all the way back in Gold and Silver as Bill's younger sister. Shout out to Birdkeeper Toby for putting together this amazing theory, but in a nutshell, it goes that between her outfit and the fact that she uses a Sylveon, and we know that she's from Ecruteak City, it's also essentially confirmed that Valerie is a kimono girl, or was at one time. This lines up with Bill because his mom used to be a kimono girl herself, and Bill is of course known for handing out Eevee from time to time. Finally, it is also revealed via the Pokegear that Bill's sister cannot wink, which is really weird but also lines up perfectly with Valerie and her weird-looking eyes. To me, this is about as airtight of a theory as you can possibly get, and pretty much proves in my mind that Valerie has been around for a lot longer than we initially thought. Another Pokemon that is not seen, but was alluded to, sorta, way ahead of its debut is Munna. You've probably heard this story before, but just outside of Rock Tunnel in Kanto is a girl that mentions she wishes there was a pink Pokemon with a floral pattern out there somewhere. This description perfectly describes Munna, seemingly showing how Munna was either meant for Gen 1 initially, or that Munna's design was based on this description. It actually doesn't seem to be the case that it was meant for Gen 1, however, considering that Ken Sugimori has stated in an interview that Munna and its evolution Musharna were designed by Atsuko Nishida, specifically during the development of Pokemon Black and White. But with the description still perfectly matching the Pokemon, it's very possible that it inspired the actual Pokemon we would see about 15 years after this line of dialogue was uttered. And last but not least, we have the case of Bonzlai and Munchlax, appearing in a game ahead of their actual debut in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. You might have seen this one for yourself already, but both Bonzlai and Munchlax make cameo appearances in Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, which came out during the Gen 3 timeframe before their proper debut in Gen 4. We see this kind of thing happen in the anime a lot, where new Pokemon will debut slightly ahead of their generation's debut, but it doesn't really happen in the games, so to see it happen here is actually pretty special. And those were some Pokemon and characters that appeared in games before their actual debut. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already for more Pokemon content. You can also support the channel further if you would like by listening to my Pokemon remixes on Spotify and by watching my Pokemon Cardinal series here on YouTube, which is sincerely appreciated and helps out a ton. With that said, I will see you guys soon with another video, and until then, as always, I love you all and I will smell you guys later.